Welcome everyone to episode 20 of HR Leaders Live, the show where we discuss the future of work with today's most innovative and successful people leaders. My name is Chris Rainey, co-founder of HRD Leaders and host of the HR Leaders podcast. As always, I'm joined by my fabulous co-hosts, Jill Katz, CHRO at Assemble HR, and Matt Burns, CHRO over at YISC. Today's special guest is Maryanne Spatola, SVP and CHRO at Solix. Maryanne, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm excited to be here today. This is a great topic and a great show. You guys are a whole lot of fun, and I'm very excited to be part of it.
Fantastic. Well, guys, today's episode, we're going to be talking about careers in the new world of work. Before we jump into that, Maryanne, let our listeners know a little bit about yourself. They probably know you a little bit already from the podcast. But for those that haven't heard about you, let us know a little bit about your background and your journey to where we are today.
Sure. I am the current CHRO at a company called Solix. We're a privately held BPO organization headquartered in New Jersey. I've been an HR exec probably 20 plus years. So fell into HR actually, did not start my career in HR, which I think gives me a very different perspective on the value HR brings. When you sit on the other side of the desk, you have a different perspective about how HR can contribute and needs to contribute to the business. I was in property casualty underwriting. I was a computer programmer and fell into HR when I joined an organization that was very much like a startup. And so we built HR from the ground up, and I got to learn all the moving parts and fell in love. My wheelhouse really has been around talent. And so that's where I've spent a lot of my career until I got to this seat. It's been a whole lot of fun. And I think that's why this topic of careers in the new world of work I'm so passionate about. Career advice, honestly, has been something that's always found me. People come to me often to ask about where do I go? How do I get there? I'm not sure what I want to do. The classic, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. And the whole world of work is changing, and therefore changing how careers are occurring and for how long, and all of those fun things. I'm also an adjunct faculty member at NYU. So I'm in front of global students on a regular basis talking about topics like this. You know, whatever subject I'm teaching, we always wander into careers. They're aspiring HR professionals or already working in the HR profession and want to know how to advance their career. So it's just something I'm very passionate about. Like I said, it kind of finds me all the time. And I think this is a really important, exciting time to be thinking about how that's all changing.
Yeah, it's been a big shift. And so on that point of what you just said, then how do you feel that, the new world of work has influenced the way we think about careers?
Oh gosh. Well, let's start with we're all living a lot longer and we're living healthier, right? So people want to work. So just even the definition of what is retirement has changed. So it used to be the stay at one job for 30 years, get the proverbial gold watch and walk off, and then go sit on a porch somewhere and do nothing. And that's completely different. So people are not staying in one company. It's almost absurd to think that they will, because they're going to work probably 30, 40, 50, maybe 60 years. So I'm calling it, the lifelong career, which it never really was looked at that way. And they want to work differently. So when I get into my mature career worker population, people who are the classic boomers, in their 50s, 60s, 70s, they don't want to stop working, or they can't afford to stop working. And so they're looking at ways to work differently in different capacities so they can keep contributing. So it really has changed a whole lot from that aspect. The other big thing that's fueling it is technology, right? So we have disruptive technology that's entered the market in the form of AI and talent platforms. So you have jobs that are being kind of democratized. They were jobs in the past that we would hire full-time people for. Well, now they're being broken down from jobs to tasks. John Boudreau has a brand new book coming out, Reinventing Jobs, in September. It's a whole different way to look at work and how work gets done. And then when you add the technology component to it, you then have the gig economy. So people are able to go onto freelance sites like Upwork, Elance, and bid on jobs, put their resumes out there. It's the best person for the best price. And they don't really need employment per se. They're just bidding on work to do. So that's changing it as well. And then how people think about their careers is also very different. So the notion of, like we mentioned, staying at one company for 30 years plus is not going to happen. People in all generations want to learn and contribute, and they want to figure out how to do that. And it often requires moving jobs. And a lot of times it's not within the same company. And I am not a millennial by any stretch, as you can tell. But if I look at my own career, I mentioned I've been in property casualty underwriting, I've been a computer programmer, and I'm an HR executive. So that's 3 different professions in my career. I've also changed jobs about every 5 years. I get the itch about every 5 years because I want to learn something new or do something different or find a new challenge. And I think that's the profile. So when you think about what organizations need to do, if we're bypassing resumes because there's a lot of movement, we're going to miss it. If we dismiss people when they leave our organization and never talk to them again, you're going to miss it because they may want to go have a different experience somewhere, and they'll be more experienced, learn new things, come back with bigger capabilities. And if they want to come back to your company, we call them boomerangs, why wouldn't you want them back? And the other part of it is, if I'm in an organization and I just keep plodding along and I'm not getting the promotion or the opportunity to contribute, what am I getting every year in a raise? 2%, 3%? If I change jobs to another company, what am I going to get? 15%, 20%? Sometimes people get 25%. So why would I stay? So I think the whole mentality of employees for a lifetime needs to stop. And I think it has stopped, but there's some laggards who aren't really embracing what that has to offer or what that means, and they're going to lose out in the talent market.
What's the profile of those laggards?
I think some of them are just, unfortunately, HR departments that are kind of stuck in their old ways. For a long time, we know in the talent space, it's all about succession planning, retention, and all those fun things. And I honestly think in the new world of work where collaboration generates innovation, and those are the companies that win, you need to think more about utility players and not succession planning. You want to figure out ways to help your employees move around the organization, learn new parts of your business, contribute differently so they can grow with the company and do new things, and maybe they'll stay a little bit longer. The other part of it, honestly, is a lot of executives on the business side who I think take it personally. So if I'm the hiring manager and you decide to leave, some of them take it personally, like, oh, you don't like me anymore, or you don't want to be here with us anymore, what's wrong with our company? And when they go down that road and they kind of dismiss people, they're completely missing the opportunity to stay in touch with, I call regrettable loss, people you wanted to stay. And then when they want to come back, there's no bridge.
I was going to say, you bring up a really interesting point, Maryanne, because there are still many statistics out there that are pointing to the key reason that people are leaving organizations continues to be the relationship with their direct manager.
Right.
And so if people are continuing to leave because of their relationship with their direct manager, and yet it is beneficial to an organization to keep a positive relationship with someone who is considered a regrettable loss, how should a company go about that?
Yeah, I think one of the things we've done in former companies, we created talent communities. So we created avenues and channels where we could stay in touch with them. And then we would have alumni events and allow people to, kind of like E&Y's been doing this for years, and they're really good at it. So if you leave E&Y.
Yeah, I was going to say that. They're very well known for that, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, but it works for them, right? So they have this reach, because we all know if I'm going to hire for a position, you look internally first, but you also look at referrals and other things. Why wouldn't you tap into your alumni network? If they liked it, they liked your company, they want to be there. We know the statistics too, Jill, on the boomerangs. If you get them back, they're going to stick because they've had that other experience, but they like your company. So they're going to come back and stick. And you're right, that relationship is still important. And that's another interesting element, right? So we think about how structures of organizations are changing. We're moving to agile processes and teams. It's not just IT that's agile anymore. So work has become not who you work for, but who you work with. Right? We've moved to these social type of networks within your organization. So it's not just the boss that they leave. It's the culture, it's their peers, it's other pieces.
And I would add to that, Maryanne, not only who they work with, but how they work.
Correct. Yeah, work is not where you go, it's what you do.
Just back to a previous point, you talked about democratizing a number of aspects about the workforce. The one piece that stands out for me is the democratizing of information.
Yes.
Obviously, even 10 years ago, if you had knowledge and you had proprietary knowledge, or you had just experience and depth of knowledge, I think about academics, I think about people in, professional trades with highly technical skills, you could monetize that. And that was incredibly valuable. Today, it's not.
No, right.
You can learn pretty much how to do anything on YouTube if you type it into the search bar. Now, you probably shouldn't do some of the things that you try to do on YouTube, but you can do a lot of things on YouTube.
I have a question.
Yes.
Did you learn to do your hair on YouTube?
Oh, my.
Oh, God.
No, that's trial and error.
When Matt was younger, there was no YouTube, guys. So
exactly.
Oh.
I just wanted to, I don't see hair like that a lot, so I just wondered if that was a YouTube win, or just curious.
I'm just curious if that's you saying you like my hair.
I think
take it as a compliment, Matt.
I'm blushing. I think I'm embarrassed, but I will admit that I like your hair.
Do you have a hair crush, Jill?
I have a hair crush on Matt.
Nice. Very nice.
Oh,
God. The fact that you no longer the value of the information that you hold has that inherent value, I think is a huge conversation. And one thing I see about the profile of people who are quote unquote resisting the change are people that come from those highly technical, highly knowledge-based skills, because they're having a tough time understanding where they fit.
Absolutely.
Whereas a generalist, somebody who can act as a conduit between multiple parties and bring people together,
that's right,
has a place in this new economy that they perhaps didn't before. Because you're right. Previously, before, we valued deep technical expertise, and people that didn't have that were seen as perhaps transient or unreliable. And now having depth of knowledge actually is actually a detriment, because you miss a lot of things that are happening in the periphery, because things are happening so fast. We often don't have time to get to the level of detail that we may have been accustomed to in the past. So I'd love your thoughts on that.
Yeah, or it'll be automated, right?
Yeah.
So look at the onset of AI. So one of the big impacts I've seen in a positive way AI is bringing is around engagement surveys, right? We've all done them, classic. The richest part of any engagement survey, in addition to the raw data, is the comments, right? But if any of us have ever done the content coding to try and read through what those comments are trying to say, what's the meaning, now AI can rip through those comments, analyze them, do keywords, and give you an analysis that would have taken days or weeks.
It would be this thick.
And you miss it, right?
You always hear about people saying, just 3 months we're doing our engagement survey.
Oh, absolutely.
3-month period. It's like, what?
Yeah.
I would go home with 4 highlighters. And
yes.
Like a weekend project and a binder.
Is that actually how it works, guys? Really? Even I didn't know.
You actually, as an HR person, you would pick 4 color highlighters. You would have a thematic strategy. You could just see me doing this, right?
Right.
Wow.
It would take 2 weeks to set up your spreadsheet in categories.
Yes.
Where does it go? Content coding, positive, negative. What are they trying to say?
So historic. It's crazy.
So AI is going to rip that apart and make it easy so you can do stuff like that. So to your point, Matt, about the analytics piece, yes, there's a value, but on the back end of it, not the work we're describing. So that is less valuable to me because I can have it done for me. The other big thing I see with folks, so I get a lot of people, like I said, come to me who end up in a transition state, either by choice or not by choice. And the other big miss is defining what a network truly is. And I like to call it, an expanded community, right? So classic network, the fallacy I often see is people tend to think of their network as people inside their organization. Okay, those are colleagues and great to have, but if you now have to go to the job market, that's not going to help you a whole lot. you need mentors, you need professional associations, you need to be involved in other places and expand the community in which you work, you volunteer, that you know, like us today, right? It's a new community of people I know and who know me and what I can offer. So when opportunities do come along, I like to call it create that top of mind experience. So Jill might say, oh, you should give Maryanne a call because I think she'd be great for that role. But we've created that relationship. We've created that kind of top of mind experience. So you have more people out there helping you try and figure out what the next thing is.
So you actually, first of all, I would recommend you any day, darling. I love you.
Thank you. Right back at you. And I do all the time, actually.
Huge fans. We're a major mutual admiration society here. You know, one of the things that you talked about earlier, and I think it might be interesting to go back and deconstruct the word career.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What does it mean?
So yeah, we've talked a lot about the new world of work.
Yep.
But I think never on our show have we actually talked about the word career.
Yep.
What does the word career mean today? And I want to start off with the man. No, I'm going to blow your mind right now, Matt Burns. I'm going after the man with the headphones.
Go for it.
Yep, that's it. Oh no, I'm going after
Nice
Chris
try.
Rainey because Chris
is a great example.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
It's a good question, and it's a good question. I was thinking about it when we first spoke about it. Even as soon as I received a topic from you guys, it was going through my head about because I spent the first 10 years of my career with one company.
Yep.
You know, and now that's like you never see that ever, hardly ever see that. And I'm still pretty young, right, from that perspective. But now, you know, even the HR leaders that I work with, I follow them on LinkedIn every day, and every 2 years they're at a different company.
Yep.
and it's very rare that I ever speak to anyone who's been at a company over 10 years. And when I do, I always ask him so many questions. And I think to answer your question, we are now empowered to make it whatever we want it to be. We have the technology to allow us to be able to work from home, to communicate.
From Starbucks.
From anywhere. Yeah, exactly. From Starbucks, right? I have friends who operate 6-figure businesses from Starbucks.
Absolutely.
I have that, right? And we didn't have that. So we are now and companies are realizing that we are now the one with the power. It's flipped 180. We're the ones that are empowered with that. We can make our choices. Whereas in the past, you had no other choice but to go and work at one of those companies and grind up that career ladder. That was the only option. But through technology, we now have the opportunity to do that. The same reason that we're speaking right now via Zoom and having this conversation. And that really heavily does rely, like you said, Maryanne, on your network to make that possible as well. So I always loved, your network is your net worth. I love that. Right. And I take that to heart. And a lot of what we've achieved has come through that. And I think more and more now people are realizing that they don't have to work that 9 to 5. They don't have to spend 3 or 4 years climbing up that ladder. And I think the biggest impact has been technology, allowing us to do that and work and be able to deliver. Especially there's certain areas, obviously in industries where it works better. You know, if you're working in particular sectors, you can't do that. So you have to choose the industries correct, right? You can't probably work in manufacturing from home. So it's not going to work out.
Doctor, you're not working from home.
Although doctors out, I've seen an app recently, which is an Uber equivalent for doctors, where you can literally go on the app and order a doctor to your house and track them along the way, and they can do a prescription there and then. So now even doctors are choosing not to go and work in hospitals, which is
as long as they're not doing surgery in my living room.
No. I mean, but
depends on what the surgery is.
Yeah,
but you think about the healthcare system.
Yeah, right. It could be better than the hospital.
Probably, to be honest, rather than sitting there. But even that's
I have some stories there that are not HR Leaders Live appropriate.
Jill.
But ask me later someday how my son was born, and we'll have a great drink.
Over lunch, we'll do that. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Jill. We'll leave that in.
Well, I know, but I actually love your story, Chris, and I hate to give you this kind of credit on film, but in so many ways you are a huge inspiration to me. And I learned so much, even just in meeting you less than a year ago, and in opening my eyes or even further validating what I believed to be true from my desk in my office, you know, my big fancy corner office with a big team at a big company, of what I could do by simply owning a laptop. I mean, it was that simple.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
I mean, it's amazing. And so when I think about my own story, and if I press the rewind button and I watch the 10-minute movie of what my life was 1 year ago from today, and how by using one tool, the only tool that I have used that's been honestly a magic wand for me, is my network. And I have worked it every single day, thoughtfully, authentically, strategically. And just thinking about where I am today, these are 3 people that I didn't know, who are now 3 people I know relatively well in different ways, who I can count on, who have connected me to more people, who have each brought me different opportunities that will lead to other opportunities. I'm involved with each of the 3 of you in multiple other projects that I didn't even know existed a year ago.
Yeah.
And so I think that is so interesting. And so, you know, Matt,
Yes.
Matt, what do people miss by sitting in their companies every day? And I'm not suggesting that everybody should look outside their doors and windows or leave their companies, but what is the one thing that you think everybody should be doing right now?
Networking more. It's not enough. We've had this, I'd mentioned this story before on this show, less than a year ago. So I started this journey in late August of 2017. I had 500 connections on LinkedIn.
Similar to me, Matt, as well.
They were only people that I knew. I had previously worked with them. I had a very strict rule that I would not add anybody at my current organization, only add them after I left. Like trust me, I operated within a mentality that was very, very familiar to a lot of people, even today.
Yes.
From there, I decided that there was a great big wide world out there, and that world had an incredible amount of value that I was missing by focusing entirely on the 4 walls within my organization. And I started to reach out to people proactively and just have coffees, have conversations. I wasn't selling anything. I wasn't buying anything. I didn't really know what I wanted. I just knew that some people in my broader network really, really interested me. And I was just curious.
Yeah.
And that kind of steamrolled into where we are today, which is, to your earlier point, Jill, us having frequent conversations with people we've never even met. Like, I've never met you in person. I've never met.
It's crazy, right? We all never met each other.
But we talk every single week for multiple hours because of the power of network and the power of creating mutual benefit for people in your network. And I would just say to this, I think everyone has different goals, and I always create 1, 3, and 5-year personal goals for myself. They are always shifting. So whether you want that corner office that Jill's talking about, whether you want to go off and do entrepreneurship like Chris has started, whether you want to do thought leadership, the things I'm doing on LinkedIn, all of it is enhanced by network. There's
Absolutely.
not one thing that network is not going to add value. And the irony is, I was, even as an HR practitioner, there were times where I was, frustrated because I was doing a job search and looking for an opportunity that fit my needs, and I wasn't having a lot of success. So for those who think that as a senior HR leader, we have like some magical key to job postings,
No.
same for us.
All right.
Irony is that I'm not looking for work at this point in time. I'm not looking for another career opportunity. They find you when you network.
They do. Absolutely.
Opportunity finds you when you network. So I would say whatever you're looking for, whether it is meet new people, have more conversations, look for that career, go into entrepreneurship, talk about thought leadership. If you want to be a professional speaker or a coach or a consultant or any of that stuff, it's all enhanced by your network. So what I generally do, because I'm somebody who has a tough time managing my schedule, is I actually carve out time in my week. So I actually have time where I've scheduled it, and people can block those times to have conversations with me, both internally and externally. And I usually do about 5 or 6 of them a week. I try and spread who I'm meeting with to include people that I wouldn't normally engage with. So for instance, last week I met with somebody who was an HR professional in West Africa.
Oh, wow. Cool.
It was awesome because I learned a whole bunch about West Africa.
There you go.
So to answer your question, Jill, I would say networking. And if you're doing it now, do more. And if you aren't doing it at all, start.
Yeah.
I think it's, I completely agree, man. And some people get stuck with they don't know why they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But that's not the point. Because
Right.
the more you do it, things start to appear and opportunities start to become available.
That's right.
And you're tasting new things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I never thought that I'll be doing a podcast, right? But I tasted it. Let me jump into that and see what that felt like. And I really enjoy it. And some of the opportunities that have come my way are things that I thought I'd never have the opportunity to do, just because I had that one conversation. And guys, by the way, not to make it all like it sounds amazing, sometimes it will be a waste of time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's only important for everyone to hear that. Sometimes you'll go to an event and you won't meet anyone, and you'll go, "That was a bit of a waste of the day."
No,
no, well, don't lie.
no, that doesn't happen. I have a question for Maryanne.
Yeah.
Maryanne, there is a broad audience that listens to our show, and most of the audience will be listening to and subscribing to a lot of what they've just heard from the four of us.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a very important sector that you talked about earlier in our show of people in the workforce who are more mature in their career and may have been at their company or doing what they've done now for 30, 40, 50 years and are toward the end of their career and not at retirement because of personal reasons that could either be can't afford it, don't want to stop working.
That's right.
What would I do? I mean, I can tell you that there's a very special woman in my life who is turning 70 in 2 weeks, and I'm not going to mention her name, but it rhymes with Flom.
That's all you could think of that rhymed, Jill. I love it.
Or Dom.
Jill, you can't think of any words that rhyme with it. It's hilarious. Keep going, Jill.
Rom. And she's been doing the same thing her entire career, and her birthday is coming up. And when I talk to her and I say, you could go do this and you could go do that, and the answer is constantly from this complete stranger whose name I'm not mentioning, but I'm 70. I can't start something new.
Absolutely, you can.
What advice do you have to people like this person that might be listening, who are at that stage of their career, who think, what am I going to start networking at this point? I probably have 2 or 3 years left. I'm not going to start a new career. What do you think for that?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And I will tell you, there's a couple things that get in the way of it. One is they think, the mentality of what can I possibly do? Where I've seen folks have the most success in that bucket is pursuing the things that they love to do. So it's the things that life got in the way and they didn't have a chance to do before. Or it's the things that I couldn't, get time to do before, and now I have the luxury of time. But the other issue, honestly, the other side of that is there is I think, unspoken bias and a bunch of stereotype about what people in that age bracket can actually do. And that it absolutely needs to change, and I talk a lot about that in my book around having a multi-generational workforce that brings a lot of value, because they have been there, done that. I've used them personally in my succession strategies. So where we have the early career generation coming up in rank and they want the opportunities, they want the promotions, they want that, but they're not necessarily ready for it. Well, who better to mentor and coach them and pass along that institutional knowledge for the next generation to bring that stability and keep the forward momentum going. So as organizations need to get past that kind of, they're ready to retire mentality, because there's still a lot of value they can add in different ways. But outside the organization, I think it is Matt's point, when you start to get yourself involved and just be open and curious about what is out there and available for you to do, there will be tons of opportunity, that I can assure you. Another vertical to pursue for those folks might be very interesting. So we all know AARP, right? They have the largest membership base worldwide of 50 and over population. They started a new business vertical for talent for exactly that reason. So there's a whole bunch of folks, 55 and older, who do want to keep working and trying to figure out what is that career for me. They call it a second life. So go have it. But they actually have resources to help people figure that out.
That's terrific.
They started a whole new business line for themselves to help people in that category find things they want to do. Board seats, depending on what their profession has been, is another great way, because they can still contribute, they can still be active, and they're bringing all of that knowledge and experience to bear on an organization that's, starting to grow or looking to do something different.
One of the mistakes that I see is that many leaders, when they've had like a 10, 20-year career in a particular field and they decide to retire, they still continue doing the similar role, but then they want to spend less time on it. And I feel like they don't realize that it is going to be tough as well. It's not like you've had all this years of experience and they wonder why people are knocking on their door to give them their money, right?
Right.
And I see many consultants I speak to all the time, every day, that I know very well that were incredible CHROs, and now they've turned to be a consultant, and they speak to me and say, Chris, I don't really know they kind of maybe assumed to be a little bit naive that they were going to have all these companies coming to them now to work with them and it'd be incredible. Whereas the ones that have been successful are the ones that have left the company and, as you said, Maryanne, done something they're passionate about, something completely different from what they've done for the last 20, 30 years, and they've flown out the blocks.
Absolutely.
And because there's so much more energy, more passion to go and do it, to try and find that energy and passion to start something from scratch in the same field that you've already been working in is tough.
Sure.
And it's definitely achievable and you can be successful, but it's a lot more, I feel like it's a lot more easier to go and do something new, fresh, and put your mind to succeed. And I see it all the time now. I see it all the time. Even on LinkedIn, you can just see people that have left and they're not really sure where they want to go.
The counsel I give folks like that is we do an exercise and we sit down and look at what are their current capabilities? What are they really good at? What do they love to do? And then we push around the edges, right? What's adjacent to that you could leverage what you know, so it's not completely fish out of water experience, but they can take what they're already good at and repurpose it in a different way. And the things that they come up with once they start opening their thinking about it is really incredible. It's a fun thing to watch.
Yeah, we don't realize as well. Go, sorry, Joe.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Maryanne, you mentioned earlier your book.
Yes.
I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more about it.
Oh, thank you. So it just got released about a couple weeks ago, almost a month ago now. It is actually entitled Careers in the New World of Work. And like I mentioned, careers is just something that always found me. I've had people kind of chasing me for years. You should write a book. You should write a book. I'm like, okay. That means I have to articulate how I do it. And that's how the book came about. So it's really my 3 C's approach. And that is building capabilities, increasing your capacity, and expanding your community. And when you put those 3 together, I like to think of it as creating a playbook. So it may sometimes be pursuit of a title, but it doesn't have to be. And more often it's not. It's really about what do you love to do and figuring out, options. What are career options for yourself that when you have a playbook of available options that you're interested in pursuing and want to grow into, then you can build your capabilities towards it. Increasing capacity is all about finding the time to do it, right? So that's one of the blockers I hear from people all the time is I can't make the time to do it. Well, if you have some vision about what it could be, what those possibilities look like, and to Matt's point, I start talking to people about that, all of a sudden things come out of nowhere. They introduce you to somebody who, oh, by the way, maybe have an opening coming along, or, they're building a new division somewhere around the globe and you have that experience. So you open yourself up to new opportunities, but finding that capacity to stretch yourself a little bit so you can keep adding value, right? So we don't get the complacent, this is what I do. And the last piece is that expanded community. And what I find is when you put all 3 of those things together, it's a pretty powerful model. And when I look back on my career, people used to joke with me about, wow, you've always got options. I'm like, yeah, I create them. I find ways to think about, well, so for me, when I was in underwriting, I loved the process of it and the detail and the data. Well, that led me to computer programming. And that's where I leveraged those skills and I learned different technology skills. And then I went back on the business side and used all of those things together to do the jobs that I was doing. And then who would have ever thought when you fall into HR, right? We're just talking about surveys. It's all about process, right? Workflow, data, analytics. How do you get things done? And then the development side of it is the people piece. So it all kind of glued together. You know, if you had asked me early in my career, would I ever be a chief human resource officer? I would have told you were nuts. Because it just wasn't even on my radar, and I would never even have thought that's what I wanted to pursue. But I ended up there because I pursued my passions, what I love to do. I kept building my skills and increasing my network and figuring out how to do more. So it all kind of comes together.
That's with most people, though. I think so many people I speak to, 99% never intended to do the role that they signed up for, but their skills married that role, and that's how it became, or their passions and combination of their passions and skills married together. It's like one of the things you mentioned earlier about the skill sets. I think it's very important when people get to that stage where they look at what skills do I have, and then what other areas can I jump into based on the skills, not based on anything else, but just the skill sets. And my wife's on maternity leave right now, and we're going to start a podcast for her about her experience being a parent. And from the very beginning, we're going to vlog the entire process of her,
nice.
from the very beginning of, not the actual birth, but vlogging around, vlogging around that, and her experience becoming a parent. And I realized that all of the skills that I do with this show and my business, and I was looking at how to create vlogs and, the revenue streams from it, everything. I already knew everything. The skills literally, and within a few days, we were able to create a podcast, a website, show, how the revenue models that we're going to do down the line. And there's this whole new thing that she's going to be running now for the next sort of 9 months while she's off with the baby, and it's keeping her busy and stopping her from going crazy as well, But it's just, I never thought that this would be able to apply to that as well. And similar with one of my passions is dancing. And I've helped a lot of my friends now get sponsorship for their events through my network of people that I work with in HR, the relevant companies that make sense to sponsor an event. I've actually done huge sponsorship deals with companies that I work with in HR. How crazy is that? Just because I made that connection through my network as well. So
you bring up an interesting point, Chris, which is, years ago, to start at the beginning, I think we've all always had dreams. Everyone has dreams inside of them that we have been trained over time to keep quiet. Because if you work in a company, you're supposed to be head down, focused on everything that happens inside the walls of that company, and keep your dreams to yourself. And now it is perfectly allowed and acceptable to be inside a company and also have dreams outside those walls and pursue them. That's right. And now we can all talk about them. We all have another dream, another big project. And so, as we come to the end of this show, Matt, I'd like to know, what is right now your number one biggest dream that you want to go after and pursue?
Nice.
Before I answer that question, let me just make a connection with a previous point, which is for those folks that are looking to pursue their dream. We talked about networking being an opportunity to expose yourself to new people, new ways of thinking, new information, new environments. If you really want that marketing position or that accounting position or that information technology position, expose yourself to that network proactively. Talk to people in that space. Understand what's going on, understand, the trials and tribulations in those functions, because there's nothing that's perfect that I've ever seen. And you'll find that over time, when you start to craft that around yourself, that your dreams will become a lot more tangible. And you'll find yourself into opportunities you wouldn't have otherwise found. Because the reality is, I don't believe in luck. I believe in making luck. Yep. And you create opportunities for yourself to have success. You create opportunities for yourself to have wins. And if you stack enough of them up together, in a real thoughtful and planful and deliberate way, you will have a very successful career or life when you choose to do that. It just very few people get struck by lightning and
and figure it out. Right. Exactly.
You have to go through trials.
On the outside, to everyone else, just to be on the outside, it may seem that way, guys. You may look at your friends and you go, oh, how have they got there? Or trust me, you don't realize the amount of work and networking and for me, for the podcast, for example, the hundreds of people that have said no before we got to the yes, right, to doing that. So you have to put yourself in a position to be able to win. If you're not willing to put yourself out there and put yourself in that position, then, sending applying to jobs and sending your CV into that black hole is a bit of a needle in a haystack approach. As well. You'd much more likely just to pick up the phone and call those people and be like, I'm interested in this role. Can I come in for a chat? Take it into your own hands. Yep. Don't ask for permission or wait for permission. Take it in your own hands and go and get it.
Yeah.
As well. And people respond to that. They love it. They absolutely love it. When I used to get sales guys calling me and pitching me why they want the job. And then I had hundreds of people apply on our website. Who am I going to bring in for the interview? The guy that called me up and sent me that LinkedIn message or said, look, I've seen on Google Maps that you're in London Bridge. I'm in Southwark. I'm 10 minutes away. Do you want to meet me for lunch? Yes, I will meet that guy for lunch because that's you got to take it into your own hands.
Pursue it.
Yeah, networking is one part of it, but you have to take it into your own hands. It feel a lot more. It feels really good when you do that as well. But you feel good about yourself, and you're not just waiting around for something to happen or for that promotion.
Well, and I would add one little thing, and then we'll go back, and Matt's got to answer Jill's question.
Oh yeah, sorry, Jill.
But the unfortunate part here is that he has now been given way too much time to think about it.
We warned you they were going to tag team today. Okay, but the other point I would add to this conversation is exactly what Chris was just alluding to, which is pay attention to what comes your way. So in addition to looking at what you're interested in, and Matt makes a great point about meeting people, expanding your network, step into places you don't know, be brave, but be curious, because some of the best opportunities I've ever had came to me. And you know what? If I weren't thinking about it or I wasn't curious about it, I would have completely missed it. So you have to be open and attuned to what's happening around you. Who are you meeting and what do they have to offer? And when you start having those kind of conversations, the amount and types of opportunities that will come your way gets exponential.
Yeah. Matt, over to you.
Great. Fortunately, I actually wrote this down last night, so this is top of mind. I used to create personal goals for myself. I've gotten away from that. I'm now writing down words. So the 3 words that I wrote down that are kind of my goal, if you will, going forward, and if you will, my dream, Jill, are balance, purpose, and deliberate.
Love it.
What is the first step that you are going to take to achieve balance, purpose, and deliberationism-ness?
Deliberateness.
That's the long form of deliberate. I'm glad you mentioned that on today. What I've done is I've created 3 tactics under each of those words.
Maryanne, I asked him this because I knew there were tactics under that.
There's always 3 tactics when it comes to Matt.
Matt has a whiteboard in his freaking bedroom.
You've been spending so much time with Dave Ulrich, haven't you?
Yeah, there you go.
There's 3 tangible tactics that are measurable, that I can quantify as having, I'm moving the needle on these things. That are very, very specific, that I can say, did I do them? Yes or no. And I'm not prepared to leave that word until I finish those 3 things.
Good for you.
I want to know what number 1 is under purpose, please.
For me, it's better aligning my inherent skills and qualities to things that are important to me. Right now, they're separate.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Well, for the rest of the audience, Matt and I have our touch base after this show, so he'll share with me and then I'll post it.
There you go.
Is it going to be on a post-it note, Jill?
Oh no.
That's my
Chris, what's your big wish right now? What's your big dream that's inside that you have to go after?
My one, the immediate one, is for a healthy baby, right?
Oh, nice.
For a healthy baby, and for my wife to be, to support her through giving birth. Right. That's terrifying and exciting at the same time. So just really for a healthy baby, and to bring it into a great home, and just I've been working hard on the baby room and everything else. Right. So that's kind of the immediate one. The long-term view is, it's tough, right? Because I try not to think too far ahead. I think because I think I'm one of those people that I'm in the next hour, 2 hours, the here and now. That's kind of how I work.
You're kidding.
I just think that is how I operate, right?
She's shocked.
She's shocked. Fine, Jill. I'll send you the link to the video call a bit earlier next time. Because I'm in it here and now. Longer term, there's a few projects I'm working on. I want to be in the future, it's a big statement, but I want to be the Netflix of HR.
Oh, cool.
Right. And that's one of the big things I'm working towards, is being the Netflix of HR and in providing incredible, rich content somewhere where anyone can go at any level and be able to access information in one place. And along with that, building in a social network similar to LinkedIn. So you've got that social learning, but with incredible content. And so that's kind of one of my bigger, what I'm working towards as well. And another thing really is also just to be the best that I can. I didn't have a dad growing up. He left before I even remember. He left when we were just kids. I've never seen him, never heard of him, never. So I kind of want to be. My goal is to be the best dad I can to Robin, which is the name of my baby girl, coming soon. So yeah, and I have no idea how to do that, right? So that's a whole nother learning process. Yeah. So I'll be doing a lot of networking with dads, going out there. I already have a WhatsApp. I have a WhatsApp group.
Watch your YouTube video on how to change a diaper.
Really? I know. I went to a couple's there's like a event for people that are having babies, and you go once a week and you do like group activities. And the people that were in the previous week brought their newborn babies, and we had to change their babies, which was pretty intimidating.
Do you have a dad bag yet?
No, I don't have a dad. I have my wife's
bag.
My wife's hospital bag is getting bigger and bigger.
Oh yeah, no.
I'm like, do we really need to take this entire suitcase with us when you're giving birth? Like, do we really need all of this stuff?
Apparently, get used to it, because when you have your newborn and you go out, you will feel like you're moving out every time. But no, you need the dad bag. So my son just had his first child, so I became a grandma on July 10th.
Congratulations!
Thank you. But it looks like a backpack.
Yeah.
And it has similar compartments to a diaper bag, but it's for dads. So you need a dad bag.
Interesting. Well, as long as it's got a room for a laptop and a few other things.
Yeah, you can fit a laptop in it.
Then we'll be all right. We're all right. But yeah, so that's kind of my longer term views.
Awesome.
Where I want to be. So.
Well, congratulations. That's great
news.
Thank you.
Well, Maryanne, thank you very much for coming on the show. I think we could talk to you for hours.
Same
it's
here.
Really interesting. I think we're all like that together. I love doing this every week, and the fact that it's the 20th episode, everyone that's listening, can't believe it. With Matt and Jill have put up with me this long, or me and Matt have put up with Jill this long. Let's be honest. So Jill was like, no. But
we've had as many episodes as I am old now. Finally.
Oh wow! I thought you was like 18, Jill.
20 now.
Aging yourself now, Jill.
Yeah, 20 years old. It's amazing.
Well, look, that's all for today, guys. Maryanne, thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing your insights and your journey with our listeners. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you're not subscribed, please do so. The audio recording will be available on the podcast for all of you that keep saying, Chris, I want to listen to it on the way to work. I can't watch the video, but I want to hear it. It's there now for you to download and subscribe to about any platform. We're there. Apart from that, I wish you all the best until we next speak. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.